This fall, fashion isn't about chasing noise. It's about anchoring yourself in what feels powerful, timeless, and wearable. Autumn 2025 is bringing a very clear message. People don't want to look like they're trying too hard. They want to look composed, admired, and respected. And that's where these trends come in. Trends that actually work in real life, that elevate you without turning you into a billboard for the latest hype. The first shift is towards structure and polish. Autumn is the season where clothing speaks louder than words, and what people are gravitating toward is silhouette and proportion that make them look intentional. It's not about standing out by being louder. It's about standing out because you look like you have authority. This is why tailoring, clean lines, and strong shapes dominate. They command attention without screaming for it. The second is texture and depth. Fall is about layering not just fabric, but story. When someone looks at you, they should see richness, thought, and detail. That's why the new wave of trends leans into materials that feel lived in, yet refined, and layering that makes sense without looking overdone. People are moving away from flashy gimmicks and into depth, clothing that feels like it has substance, even when it's simple. Third, color psychology plays a huge role this season. Autumn has always leaned into deeper tones, but 2025 pushes it further. Not just darker shades, but colors that reflect stability and permanence. People are tired of disposable style, and they want their palette to show that. When you dress in grounded, confident colors, you signal permanence, not trend chasing. Another undeniable shift is in energy. This season is not about looking pretty or sexy in a surface-level way. It's about looking untouchable, aspirational, and intelligent. That's why you're seeing fashion tilt toward restraint. Not revealing more, but revealing less, because less has become the new form of luxury. In a world oversaturated with expo, mystery is magnetic. So the top trends for fall 2025 are not really trends at all. They're strategies. Strategies for dressing in a way that earns respect, not just attention. Dressing in a way that makes you unforgettable, not because you're loud, but because you carry yourself like you don't need validation. And that's the deeper truth. This fall, the best fashion isn't about blending in with what's everywhere. It's about refining yourself until you feel impossible to ignore. That's how you make Autumn 2025 yours. Follow at GTWJ Mag for more. What makes the fall 2025 fashion trends stand out is that they don't feel like trends at all. They feel like a recalibration. For the past few years, fashion has been about speed. New aesthetics blowing up online, micro trends lasting 3 weeks, and people constantly cycling through clothes they don't even like that much just to keep up. That cycle has left people drained. Now what's considered wearable and desirable is the opposite of that. Timelessness is suddenly the ultimate flex, and not timelessness in the cliche sense of a little black dress or a trench coat, but timelessness as a state of being. The trends this fall echo permanence. Shapes that have always worked, fabrics that age beautifully, colors that can live in your closet for years without feeling tired. This signals cultural fatigue with disposability. People don't want to feel like walking fast fashion. They want to feel like they're investing in themselves. There's also psychology in why wearable is trending. After years of maximalism and shock value in fashion, we've hit a cultural saturation point. The pendulum always swings, and now people crave calm, clarity, and elegance. When everyone else is loud, quiet becomes the strongest statement. That's why restraint, sophistication, and composure are suddenly magnetic. It also ties into respect. Nobody wants to be seen as cheap. Not financially, not emotionally, not socially. Clothes communicate your standards, and people are starting to realize that chasing trends at the cost of refinement only lowers how they're perceived. Fall 2025 is brutally honest in this sense. If your clothes look like they're trying too hard, you look insecure. If your clothes look intentional and effortless, you look powerful. So what's wearable this fall is less about which exact item you pick and more about how your clothes speak for you when you say nothing at all. People want to be admired not for how much they reveal, but for how much they withhold. They want to look like they know something others don't, like they carry themselves above the noise. This is why the wearable trends of 2025 aren't just clothes. They're strategies for social positioning, to be admired, respected, and remembered without ever begging for attention. That's why fall fashion this year feels like a cultural reset, not just a seasonal wardrobe shift. And that's exactly why GTWJ exists, to unpack not just what to wear, but why it matters. Follow at GTWJ Mag for more. What makes something instantly dated versus timeless is less about the clothes themselves and more about the psychology behind them. Fashion that dates quickly is fashion that screams too loudly. It's the kind of look that announces itself before you do, and because of that, it can only live in a moment. When the cultural mood shifts, it collapses with it. That's why hypersexual, overlogoed, or overly viral pieces always feel embarrassing a season later. They're dependent on trends to justify their existence. Timelessness, on the other hand, doesn't need external validation. It carries an energy of permanence. It's rooted in proportion, restraint, balance, and materials that only get better with age. The timeless pieces aren't fighting for attention. They demand respect by not needing to. This is the psychological distinction. Timeless fashion makes you the subject, while dated fashion makes your clothes the subject. There's also something deeper happening here. Timelessness represents self-assurance. You don't need to chase what's in if it is already solid. Dated fashion reveals insecurity. It's a way of outsourcing confidence to the approval of a trend cycle. That's why the truly elegant people don't look like they're wearing fashion. They look like they are fashion, and the clothes simply follow their energy. Fall 2025 makes this divide clearer than ever. The cultural appetite is for fashion that elevates, not costumes, not gimmicks, not outfits that reduce you to a single aesthetic. People want to look respected, admired, untouchable. That doesn't come from trying to be seen, but from dressing as though you already know you will be. And that's the brutal truth. If your style depends on the season's approval, it will expire with it. But if your style depends on your own standard, it becomes untouchable. That's the line between dated and timeless this fall, and it's the one worth walking. Follow at GTWJ Mag for more of these deep dives into fashion psychology and how to truly master personal style. This is where fashion stops being just fabric and becomes social currency. What you wear this fall isn't only about looking good, it's about what your look says about your status, your intelligence, your sense of self. Clothes are the first line of communication before you even open your mouth, and fall 2025 is making that louder than ever. When you walk into a room dressed in something timeless, balanced, and intentional, people unconsciously read it as competence. They assume you're organized, respected, in control. Your clothes become a form of credibility. That's why elegance is never just about aesthetics, it's about what it signals. On the flip side, wearing something that screams too loudly or chases trends too desperately lowers your perceived value instantly. It communicates that you're insecure, that you're performing rather than being. This fall, nothing looks cheaper than looking like you tried too hard. The people who are admired, the ones who dominate rooms, don't look like they're begging for attention. They look they own it without asking. The truth is, fashion is a language of hierarchy. Quiet, refined choices place you higher because they show self-assurance. Loud, disposable trends place you lower because they show dependence on outside approval. Fall 2025 is separating the two with more clarity than ever. That's why this season isn't just about clothes. It's about power. It's about whether what you wear raises you above the noise or drowns you in it. And if you want more of these unfiltered, brutally honest breakdowns of what fashion really means, follow at GTWJ Mag.